Good morning, guys. There you go. Well, October 8th, 7/11, and good to be with you. I'm out here in Tulsa. We've been making the rounds. We're in Dallas for a couple of days, and now we are back on the campaign trail up here in Tulsa. So going to meet with the Tulsa Republican Men's Club at noon today, and then see where we're going to be tonight. We're going to be meeting with the church tonight. So lots of great churches here in Tulsa, and we're going to be meeting with Power Chapel and Pastor Jeremy and Tara Richardson. So great pastors, great church there. But man, beautiful morning here in Tulsa. I wanted to pop on here and give you an update on the campaign, update on obviously the medical kidnapping case that I've been talking about. So many people have been talking about, and just did an interview on a nationwide podcast yesterday that focuses on medical kidnapping cases, and they are looking at this one. This is of great interest to them. So I had that podcast yesterday, and I'm very concerned about what we saw happen. I think that there's been some good progress made, and can't disclose that. So I know some details that we're just waiting on things to get finalized. I want to bring some clarity here in just a second on the gag order, and which, isn't technically a gag order, but, looks and feels and operates like one. Give me 1 second. The battery in our car ran down yesterday, and I've got friends reaching out saying, "Hey, are you still stranded?" So let me just let them know that we are alive. All right. So I'm gonna be talking some more. I've been kind of waiting on doing a full, podcast and interviews and things like that. I've got all those set up, but this thing has been delayed because of this prohibition of speaking on the case. Of course, this applies to those involved, the attorney, the mom and her son, and it's actually Oklahoma law, a recent Oklahoma law that was passed, which I hope that we can overturn, because it allows people to hide behind it. It allows the system to hide behind it, and it prevents the public from understanding if justice is done and who needs to be held accountable. So there's lots of work we need to do in that area. Good morning, Roberta. Good to see you. Let me know if you want to pop on here and add anything to this conversation this morning. Okay, just you can text me or message me. I'll bring you on. But we have some things that are hopefully going to be revealed today that I'll be able to speak about. But things are progressing in the right direction. Does not make up for the wrongs that were done. And, in my opinion, there still needs to be justice served to the justice system. And the system itself needs massive correction. This should never happen to a family in Oklahoma where their child is taken from them because the state disagrees on how they are caring for them. Again, this was not an issue of neglect. This was not abuse. It was obvious that this was a loving parent seeking the best treatment for her son. Her son had autism, high functioning autism. You got to think like Elon Musk. I sat and visited with the young man, and carries on a great conversation. Sure, there's some social awkwardness, like not looking directly, no direct eye contact, stuff like that, but high functioning. And the word was that during the natural treatment, the alternative treatment that they were giving him, that he actually, the autistic tendencies began to diminish, that his cognitive function began to increase. And, that says so much about how your body thrives when you give it what it needs. And I mean, I'm going to be talking a lot here in the days to come about this. I hate to call it alternative therapies. If anything, we should call it primary therapy, because it should come first. These are the things that we should attempt first. I mean, why not start with vitamin deficiency? Roberta popping in saying the next step we have got to change is this law to keep this from ever happening to another family. 100%. That's what we have to do. And we talk about higher education, and this assumption that college is the next step for all children. And this, of course, was one of the big messages of Charlie Kirk, is how college is a scam. And I believe there are some degrees that have value, and but largely most degrees are worthless, and the time spent at college is spent more on social functions, if you will, rather than academics and developing and becoming a person of value to society and increasing your knowledge and resulting in actual financial benefit to the person. So compare that with Votech, with my point here is that the acquisition of real skills that one would get at Votech, that's diminished, is put aside as secondary, as an alternative form of education. These alternative therapies are kind of poo-pooed and just pushed to the side as like quacks, as irrelative, as ineffective. And I'd say let's start with that. I think that this is where medicine should start, is let's start with boosting, doing a blood panel, doing a gene assessment, finding out what the body needs and is the body getting it, because the body can fight off disease. But oftentimes we run it at such a low level because we're not giving the body what it needs. And so I want to dig more into that. I've got some people actually lined up this afternoon to talk to about that are doing amazing work in this area of natural therapy, treatments. But there's layers to this, because we have to talk about that and the role of holistic, natural approaches to health. And what are we going to do about that here in Oklahoma? Should it be recognized by the state as a viable form of medicine? I think it should be. That's what we need to change in our laws here. But beyond that is the inherent right of the parent to decide what is best for the child. Now, those go hand in hand, because if the state recognizes these kinds of therapies and treatments as viable and good medicine, then if a parent opts to do that, there's no red flags thrown. So speaking of red flags, Representative Jay Stigall brought up a great point concerning red flag laws and how they compare to what we're seeing here. Because in the case of a red flag law, someone is accused of being mentally unstable. And if a state has a red flag law, the state can pursue that person and strip them of all firearms just because they believe this person might be unstable. Now, this bypasses all due process. And sorry, I got a plane flying overhead. It's exactly what we're seeing here, is this mom, the state, the caseworker, a judge, all just determined that the mom was making the wrong decision. I would argue that none of these people are medical doctors. And if they're acting on the advice of a medical doctors are often wrong. That's why you have things called second opinions. And so to say that a medical doctor said that this kid is under extreme threat of death, I'm saying that was the exact words that were used, but it felt that way. This medical doctor was saying that this child is in imminent danger because of the approach that the mom is choosing to take. Well, let's get a second opinion, and let's get maybe 10 opinions, and let's take this before a jury of her peers, and let's go the full length before you ever overstep and override a parent's authority. So we need to value here in the state of Oklahoma, the state needs to value parental rights, and it's not. Obviously, that is the issue with this case right here, is the mom's rights were violated. And for those of you just tuning in that may be unfamiliar with this case, the mom was she has a 17-year-old autistic son that has leukemia, was treating him with chemotherapy, had him at OU Children's Hospital, and decided that, hey, that is not the best approach for my son. So she pulled him off of the chemotherapy, left OU Children's, started doing her own research, discovered a naturopathic doctor. They did a full panel testing on his genes to determine exactly what his body needs. And at this point, you have to stop and say, okay, but I don't agree with that. Well, okay, you have the right to your opinion. The court, the medical doctors have a right to their opinion, but the mom has a right to her son. And if she is in good faith working in the best interest of her son, you got to get your hands off. So she is pursuing the best possible treatment for her son, doing extensive work. I mean, you look at just what she went through and what she did, spending months investigating, researching, doing these tests for her son. How can you call that medical neglect? It was absolutely not. So they're pursuing that. A family member is concerned about what she's doing, the path she is taking for her son. And long story short, it gets reported to DHS. There's a referral made. DHS investigates, mandates the mom goes to OU Medical while they're there. And the story is that they wanted her to come back to the hospital to do a physical examination on the son so they could determine whether or not he was healthy or not. Again, that should never be mandated. And if it is going to be mandated by the court, let it be after, because there's no imminent danger, imminent threat of death for this boy. So wait, let her have her day in court to determine if the state should step in and decide this. But they didn't. They issued an emergency summons, an emergency order. She went to the hospital. There she was forced to check her son in. And she signed all the documentations agreeing to do this, but she did this under duress. It was under duress because I spoke with her. I met with her the night she was there on Friday night, and she said, I'm afraid if I don't do this, they're going to take my son. Well, they did anyway. She complied, but they stripped her of her rights, took custody of her son, and then began treatment. And not just, it wasn't like we're giving him Tylenol. You know, they did a blood transfusion. And she said, okay, if you're going to do that, can you please at least check to see if it has COVID vaccinations in it. Well, they did not do that. They said we can't do that. So they gave him blood and then resumed chemo. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The violation of the parental authority, of bodily autonomy, of medical freedom. So right now, if everything is corrected, if the state apologizes, I don't know. I don't see how there is not a lawsuit here, a massive lawsuit. So I got John Boy saying, in my opinion, the DHS worker, judge, and doctor need to be held accountable for child endangerment, forcing the child to do medical treatment. I agree with you, John Boy. You know, there needs to be accountability here. And, you know, I don't think people should be able to hide behind, I was just doing my job. I mean, that's where everybody goes, is, hey, I was just doing my job. The doctor, the DHS worker, just doing my job. Well, there's a point where that no longer holds water. So people need to be held accountable for what is right and wrong. This was wrong at every level. That was on Friday. Blood transfusion, chemo is administered, and the doctor is nowhere to be found. The doctor did not see him over the weekend. So that's another huge grievance here. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Roberta was there with Dana, and she said, let's talk about how they made her walk down to the pharmacy, pick the chemo up, and walk it upstairs and hand it to the provider so the doctor could push the poison against her wishes. Now, Roberta, was there a reason that they had her do this? Was it to show that she was involved in the process and relieve themselves of any accountability there? I mean, what was the reason for having them? What was the reason for them having her go pick up the chemo? Just unbelievable. Yeah. So this was done over the weekend. Then Monday comes and she has a show cause hearing. She has a show cause hearing on Monday morning, where she has to come and now prove to the court that she's innocent. So lots of people have issues with show cause hearings. Now, the reason for these is if the court has to act in an emergency situation, to my understanding. So a reason was not given, Roberta says, about why they made her go pick up the chemo. I don't think I could have done it. But these show cause hearings, I understand if the court has to act in an emergency situation and then they have to come back later and they give then the defendant, if you will, I guess, the opportunity to explain themselves about why certain things were happening that required the state to step in. But in this case, especially, it just seems so backwards. It seemed like she's guilty until proven innocent. That's what this show cause hearing was. And so she came in. Of course, it was closed. No one was able to sit in on the hearing, which, I believe needs to change here in Oklahoma. There's so many privacy laws to protect the innocent, to protect the names of children and things like that. There's a way to do this. There are states that have cameras in courtrooms. And so this is an area I want to look at, is the ultimate transparency, to hold judges to hold courtrooms in the state in general to account. These closed courtrooms are a problem. Tammy saying that transparency should be the parents' choice. I think it's a good point. Let the parents decide if they want the details of a case to be revealed. I think that's a great point, Tammy. Roberta says, referring to the hospital having the mom walk down to the pharmacy and pick up the chemo. I mean, the mom at this point, after having tried chemo and seeing what it did to her son, it devastates. It devastates. Chemo does. And to have gone through that and see what it does to her son, and so concerned that she pulls her son that she loves off of chemotherapy so that he can heal from chemotherapy. And now the doctor has her go down and pick up her son's chemo and walk it back. Wow. Roberta said she believes it was retaliation. I'm guessing you mean retaliation for ever ending the treatment in the first place, for ever walking away, daring to walk away from the hospital. How dare you defy the medical gods? So now you got to go get your own poison and bring it back here so we can administer it to your son. Wow. It is infuriating. So infuriating. So had this show cause hearing. I was there, as were so many. I don't know that there was 50 people there outside the juvenile center there in between El Reno and Yukon. And so they leave the hearing with no word. The attorney comes out. You can see on my Facebook page, I posted it, that the attorney comes out and said he cannot speak about this lest he be disbarred. And so the immediate response was, this is a gag order from the judge. Just a point of clarity there, according to Oklahoma statutes, Title 10A. This is where the children and juvenile code are found. We have this portion. An agency or person may seek an order from the juvenile court prohibiting the release of confidential information subject to disclosure without an order of the court pursuant to Section 620.6 of Title 10 of the Oklahoma statutes, or any provision of this chapter. The court may, for good cause shown, prohibit the release of such information or authorize the release of the information upon such conditions as the court deems necessary and appropriate. So it does seem that it's up to the discretion of the judge, and the judge determined it was not appropriate for the details of the case to be talked about. So he prohibited it. It's very close to a gag order. People don't want to call it a gag order, but the court, and I'm sure there's technicalities that separate, obviously, what is a gag order and this statute. But nonetheless, the judge prohibited the mother or her attorney from talking about the details of this case. And I can only suspect that it was to protect DHS, not the details of the son. That's the excuse that's given. Okay. And we see these agencies and we see the state hiding behind these kinds of laws to protect themselves. It's not to protect the innocent. I'm sure the mom would have been more than happy to come out and talk about what happened in the courtroom. Roberta said the attorney, Daniel McClure, is an absolute amazing person. He represented the mom in this case. She said he was working nonstop, working through the night for this family, He stepped up to the fight for this family on his own dime, losing money to fight for something he believes in. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to speak with Daniel later today, and he is a good man. He's a good man. And man, what an amazing person to do this on his own dime. But that's what it takes, guys, is fighting for something because it's right, not because you get paid for it. You know, I've been accused on this right here of covering this story to promote my own name for the campaign. And it's just, all I can say is you just don't know me, okay? If you've lived with me, been around me at all for the past 10 years while we've gone through our own struggles with DHS, you understand that this is a point of passion and deep conviction for me. While I was in the Senate, I was speaking about this. There's a thread on X, a lady accusing me of doing nothing while I was in the Senate. Well, my hands were tied behind my back while I was in the Senate because Senate leadership shut down all of my bills. And so there was no way I could advance any legislation to deal with this or any other subject. And so that's a whole other issue about the structure of our legislature here in Oklahoma that needs to be corrected, that would prevent representatives from being shut down. But that nonetheless happened. And so the accusation was made. I did nothing during my time in office regarding DHS and protecting children. Well, this kind of nonsense that gets passed around social media, then you get caught up in this endless back and forth thread, talking with someone who knows nothing about what they're talking about. There were so many conversations I had in private with other legislators to help them with legislation. I had DHS director in my office. I had other advocates in my office. And I had a bill, Mandy's Law, that I was working on. Not Mandy's Law. Well, I'll think of the name of it. Where I was working with Mandy Reed on a law to protect children in circumstances that her stepdaughter was dealing with. So yeah, I was actively involved in these kinds of cases, met with so many families. And so anyway, there's just nonsense being passed around that I did nothing while I was in the Senate. I did as much as I could working with a broken system in our legislature. But this is a passion point for me. I'm not doing this for clicks. I'm not doing this to help the campaign. I mean, this is something I know Dana. She is a friend. And when this happened, it hit close to home. And I just was not going to let it go. To know that she was up at the hospital with her son being held captive by the state. I wish I would have let the word get out and we had 100 or 1,000 people surround OU Children's that same night, because that's exactly what should have happened. When there's medical kidnapping involved, then the whole state should show up, because if it happens to one person, it can happen to another. And, I'm just reminded of Dietrich Bonhoeffer's quote that, he said, when they came for the socialists, I did not speak up because I was not a socialist. And when they came for the trade unions, I did not speak up because I was not a trade unionist. And when they came for the Jews, I did not speak up because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak up for me. And such a powerful statement there, that we better step up and speak up for people in need like this mom. It is my deep conviction that we must step up in cases like this. I have been. My record, I think, shows, and those who know me can vouch for that. But yeah, thank you, Roberta. I was working on Maddie's Law while in office. Anyway, keep this lady, his mom, Dana, her name is out now, so I'll be able to say it, Dana, in your prayers. Her son, Preston, Dana and Preston, as they wrap this up. This is far from over, though. Justice needs to be served to the state. And we need to change some laws here in Oklahoma to make sure this cannot happen again. I have to go. I have another meeting. I'm looking at the time. I'm already 10 minutes late to my next one, but wanted to get up here and update you guys on the latest. And like I said, there's more to come. I'm just waiting on the I's to be dotted, T's to be crossed, things get wrapped up so that we can speak more freely about some of these things. And I'll bring that to you as soon as I can. But hey, guys, be blessed. I'm out here in Tulsa, and I'm going to be giving you the latest on our campaign. This weekend is the next Oklahoma Rising event we're really excited about down in Durant. If you're anywhere in the area, come out because it's just a special place. It's at Freedom Acres Farm in Durant, and it is a special place. And so we're just thankful that they invited us to come do it on their location. People come from all over. People come up from Texas to buy produce there. So it's a neat place. If you're able to come, it's worth an hour or two drive, honestly, to go out there and check out this Freedom Acres. And I think it is the epitome of America, and they really represent freedom. So we're going to have that big Oklahoma Rising this Saturday at 5 p.m. So come out if you can. But we're going to be out here in Tulsa for the next couple of days out at Claremore. We'll be out there on Thursday. But hey, guys, God bless. I'll keep you updated as I get more. We'll see you later.